Hi, everyone. It's a real honor and a privilege to be with you all today. I would like to thank the organizers for putting on this extremely important and timely symposium. I guess there's so much to say about this subject that I thought I would try to hit three main points, and probably I'll only have time to hit two. The 3 points I really wanted to make are: what does it really mean to treat substance use and substance use disorder or addiction as a health issue? Second, I'd like to speak about the concept of incrementalism as a means of dealing with this as a political issue. And third, I wanted to touch on treatment. Before I get into the health issue, I think there's a couple things that are important to situate. I think it's particularly timely now with so much focus on our history of colonialism, our history of structural racism in this country, to recognize that the drug laws that we're dealing with today are race-based. They didn't come about because of any kind of scientific or health-based rational approach, but rather the drugs that we choose to use legally and those which we stigmatize with the criminality are really very much a product of that, I think, colonial, race-based structured society in which, frankly, all laws emerge. Second, I want to say as a general proposition that I believe this is one issue where the population is way ahead of legislators. And my reason for that is simple. I don't think there's a family in this country that remains untouched by alcoholism or by substance use or by substance use disorder. In every corner of this country, in every community, in every family, someone's got an uncle or an aunt, a cousin, a brother or sister, a mother or father, a daughter or son, or themselves, who has experience with problematic drug use. And I don't think they view each other as criminals. They view each other as people who are struggling with a personal issue in their lives. So I want to talk about health issue. I have come to believe completely that in order to make progress on this issue, we have to treat this issue comprehensively as a health issue, not partially. That means decriminalizing everything: possession, use, and supply. I don't think we can treat this issue half as a health issue and half as a criminal issue. And there's reasons why. We all know that stigmatization and trauma are key components of the illness. I don't think you can partially destigmatize something. And frankly, I also think that when the basis of addiction is trauma and the criminal system is designed to traumatize, then if any part of that system is criminalized, that means we are ensuring continued trauma, which means we are continuing the very underlying source of one of the major problems that have to do with addiction. I introduced in this Parliament Bill C-286. It's actually called, the short name is the Health-Based Approach to Substance Use Act, which I think is groundbreaking legislation. It's the first attempt ever in this country to take a comprehensive cut at this issue. So not only would it decriminalize all drugs, it also would require a regulated, low barrier access to all drugs through legal means. It would expunge all criminal records of everybody, because as we know, people carry these records. We have a century of stigmatization that is going to take decades and decades to wash out of the system. And finally, it prescribes access to publicly funded universal access to treatment. I want to just move to incrementalism. You know, there's this concept in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a core concept in recovery, according to that tradition, that says half measures availed us nothing. And I might take a moment just to say that I do have lived experience. I have been in recovery for 21 years, so I bring that perspective to bear on that as well, as anecdotal and narrow as that may be. But I have found that that's correct in my recovery. I think it's correct from a policy point of view. More pointedly, I think incrementalism delays, and what we do know is that delay kills. And when we're dealing with a public health crisis, I think it's a pandemic, when we have thousands of people dying every single year, mainly from, I think, products of criminalization, not from the primary substance use or substance use disorder that they have, but as a result of the criminalization of it, pushing them underground into the darkness, into the dealing with the criminal world, forced to purchase their substances in a poisoned manner from a street supply from the criminalized setting. I think that as long as we delay that recognition and we fail to deal with that, frankly, our approach of incrementalism is contributing to the death and destruction. I think incrementalism ignores and invalidates the evidence. You know, you won't find a politician in this country who won't say that we believe that policy should be based on evidence. Well, the evidence is here. For some reason, we just don't want to acknowledge it when it comes to addiction. And the evidence is clear, is that criminalization does not work. We have wasted billions of dollars and harmed millions of people, and it does not actually achieve the desired impact. As a matter of fact, on the contrary, what it does is it contributes to the stigmatization and harms, and therefore into the very problems that it claims to be addressed at. You know, there's also this issue that stigma means secrets. And again, in recovery concepts, it has been said that the sickness is in the secrets. So when we have a criminalized system, I think we have to start acknowledging very openly that criminalized system is not a benign aspect that we can deal with as policymakers eventually. When we're ready, we have to recognize that criminalization is a core component of the death, harm, and destruction that's being caused now. It's not the primary cause, but it is a contributing cause. Finally, I just want to just say one word or two about treatment. You know, you can't reduce the way that we need to have education, prevention, and treatment. And I think we have to replace stigma with knowledge. We have to replace shame with understanding. And there's a consensus across all political lines that the long-term answer to this is we have to, if we do treat this as a health issue, then we have to make sure that people can get access to the treatment that they need. And that means just-in-time treatment. It means treatment in demand, upon demand. We know about substance use disorder. It has this unique feature of convincing the sufferer that they don't have the disease. Imagine if it was a feature of diabetes, that when you had diabetes, it convinced you mentally that you don't have diabetes. So you were instinctively resistant to taking the insulin that you had to have to save your life. Well, that's what we know about addiction. And so when treatment is sought, we have to make sure that we can deliver, just like we do for cardiac issues. And so I think we have to turn our mind as well to creating the healthcare architecture so that there's universal access to treatment on demand without regard to people's ability to pay. If you have $20,000 a month, you can get treatment in this country. If you don't, you can't. So there's a fundamentally social justice component to this as well. So where I'll wrap up is saying that I do have the luxury, being an opposition opponent, of, I think, pressing the government to go further and harder and faster. I very much respect the work my colleague Nathaniel has done, but I think it's the job of opposition to push farther. And I say it's time for full decriminalization of the entire thing to make sure we have a regulated, safe supply, low barrier supply now, and we remove all the stigma and comprehensively treat this issue as the health issue it is, if we truly believe that it is a health issue. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Don. And thank you for introducing Bill C-286 and for pushing the government. And thank you, Nate, also for pushing the government. Let's get beyond the incrementalism. Absolutely agreed.